Hello, everybody. We're live today, and we're going to be talking about objections, everyone's favorite topic when it comes to sales conversations, everyone's favorite topic to get stuck on, and the most challenging thing most people find. I'm working with a lot of coaches, and I help them through their sales process. I help them have sales conversations, and time again, probably one of the most common things that comes up is, how do I handle this objection? How do I handle that objection? The client says the price is too high. The client says they want to think about it. What do I do in these circumstances? So what I'll do in this series is I will make videos about one specific objection and flesh that out to give you an idea of how to deal with it, why it comes up, so you understand what's happening, so you can deal with it better. I am going to be addressing the questions that I get from my private mastermind group here. If you haven't joined already, you can find the link in my comment section or in the description, or just send me a DM with group and I'll send it to you. So today I made a post about what do you guys want to see, what kind of objections or what kind of questions you want answered. I take questions from coaches and I try to address them in the live streams here. So how to handle objections was pretty much the most popular one. No surprise there. And people wanted to know the objections of, I need to talk to my husband. That's a lot of money. And the Dominic also says money. The money one keeps coming up. So we're going to talk about the money objection today. And specifically what I want to focus on is what happens when you get to the point in the call where you start discussing money or the pricing with the client, and it goes downhill from there, right? And it's like, oh, no, it's too expensive. That's a lot of money. Well, I can't afford this much or whatever. So how do we deal with these objections? Now, one thing I want to caveat this is when people come to me and they say, I lost a sale at the price. Rarely will you ever lose the sale at the price. It's usually because of what you did prior to talking about that price that determines whether you get the sale or not, right? If you get on a call with someone and right off the bat you say, I'm going to offer you a package of $2,000, and they say no, you're going to think, well, I lost them at the price, but it's actually, what did you do leading up to that price? Did you build enough value before you got to the price? All right. There's a great book. So I have my stack of books here. This is one of my favorites. It's called Socratic Selling. It talks about how as long as any sentence is open to interpretation, it is not a true objection. So as long as you can interpret something multiple ways, it's not the true objection. What do I mean in this context? If someone says the price is too high, or this is too expensive, or this is a lot of money, how do most of us respond? Most of us respond by jumping on it and answering that objection. We try to justify it. So if someone says the price is too high or this is really expensive, we say, well, actually, it's not that expensive if you think about A, B, C, D, E, F, G that you're getting, or if you think about that other person who's doing this, I'm actually giving you more value. We start justifying ourselves. We start explaining ourselves. Victor Antonio talks about this. If you are explaining, you are losing the game. You don't have to explain these things, okay? But why do we do it? Because it's intuitive to us. We get an objection and we start defending because it's like, oh my God, this person doesn't see the value in what I offer. I need to justify that, okay? So as long as something is open to multiple interpretations, how is something like this is too expensive open to multiple interpretations? Well, if I said it's too expensive, what do I mean by that? Do you know for a fact what does that mean? Does it mean it's too expensive for this service? Does it mean it's too expensive now? Does it mean it's too expensive for this type of product? What is it too expensive for? So these are things that you need to keep in mind, okay? Is it too expensive for this service? Is it too expensive compared to this other service? Is it too expensive for you offering this service? What is the true objection? You will never know till you ask. So whenever someone says the price is too high or this is a lot of money, the first thing I want you to say is, okay, what do you mean by that? That's it. That's it. All you're doing is you're trying to clarify what the actual true objection is, okay? And they'll say, well, that's a lot of money right now. Maybe I can't pay all of it in one go. Can you break it down into installments? That way, there wasn't a price objection in the first place. The only objection was, I don't have all this money right now. But had you not inquired, had you not asked what they mean by that, you would never have known, and you'd have started defending your program, defending your price, and all of that stuff, which you completely don't need to do. So as long as something is open to multiple interpretations, remember to ask, okay, What do you mean by that? Well, that's a lot of money. Okay. What do you mean by that? Well, this sounds really expensive. Okay. What do you mean by that? No matter what they say about the pricing, okay. What do you mean by that? That way, they will tell you how they actually feel. So sometimes people will say, okay, that's a lot of money. Okay. What do you mean by that? I just don't have the money at all. I don't have the money in the bank. So now you know the problem wasn't that you did a bad job of demonstrating the value or that you showed that your product or service wasn't a good fit. You know you didn't qualify them. What is qualifying? Qualifying is asking a series of questions to your prospective clients to know what their financial situation is. And you do this really early on, or you do this even before you get on the call. You will ask them, hey, listen, what are you doing right now to support yourself? How are you paying the bills right now? Because I want to make sure if we're working together, I'm not putting you in a bad spot. I'm not putting you in a spot where you don't have money to put food on the table. You don't have money to pay the rent. I want to make sure you're all good. If they say, yeah, you know what, money is not a problem. I've got savings. Everything's good. Fantastic. Let's move on to the call. So most of the times what happens is coaches will open their calendar to anyone and everyone, and they get on a call and they start pitching their service. Hey, I can help you with this, that. They get to the end of the call. They spend an hour on the call and they say, okay, my service is $1,500 or $2,000. And the client is like, well, I don't have money. I can't afford this. So we need to gauge really early on in the call, where are they at? What can they afford? What's their budget? What are they doing now? Do they make their own financial decisions? Do they have their own support system? Do they pay for their own expenses? These are some things that you have to qualify really on. So again, when you get to the end of the call and they say the price is too high, sometimes it's not the price that's the problem. It's not the price that's breaking the sale. It's a lack of qualifying the prospective client. It's you talking to anyone and everyone without asking them the right questions to see if they are your ideal clients, right? If I have a $2,000 service or a $5,000 service, I'm not going to get on the phone with a lot of students because I know students don't have a lot of disposable income to afford what I offer, right? So if I keep opening up my calendar and talking to all these people who aren't qualified, of course, I'm going to get the price objection. Of course, they're going to say it's too expensive, right? So what is your qualification process like? Are you asking enough questions early on? Are you asking enough questions to know whether they can afford the service or not? Keep that in mind, right? The other thing is, what is your positioning like? What is your branding like? What is your who do you appeal to in terms of clientele? Are you working with anyone and everyone at every financial position, or do you work with a subset of people? So, for example, one of my clients that I was working with, Maria, she was working with everyone across the globe. Okay, so she does public speaking coaching. She was working with people in India, Africa, Italy, you name it, and she was finding that the conversion rate made it really difficult for people to afford her service. Right, something like a $500 service would translate to be very, very expensive when you convert it to US dollars or when you convert it to their currency. So we had to position herself into a North American audience that could then afford her service. And she's putting in the same amount of effort. She's putting in the same amount of coaching effort, but she's positioned herself with people who have money. So think about this like this. Are you open to anyone and everyone, regardless of their financial situation? Are you hopping on a call with every single client? If you are, first of all, you need to be more particular about who you work with. You need to have a minimum threshold that your clients meet. I need to make sure my clients fit at least this financial threshold. They make at least this much money, or they can at least pay the rent. They're not in debt right now. So you can see a lot of these price objections, they can be solved if you're talking to the right people. If you're talking to people you qualified, people who have the money, people who are within a group of people who can afford it. This will make it so much easier for you. And this is why I spend so much time with my clients to see how can we position you in a group of people, in an audience that can actually afford your service. Because if you start a brand, you start a coaching business, and you pigeonhole yourself with people who just don't have money, you will struggle to make money because your clients struggle to make money. So it's going to be this endless spiral of you trying to get more people. People can afford your service, and it's just going to be a lot harder for you to make any money that way, okay? So qualify your client, position yourself, and make sure you're asking them, okay, what do you mean by that? Underline the true objection. Now, Suppose someone does have money. They do have money. They can't afford it, but they get on a call with you and they say, you know what? Price is too high, or this is too expensive, or that's a lot more than I thought that this was going to be. How do you tackle that? Again, the first thing I always do, okay, what do you mean by that? You want to get the true objection out, because otherwise you're dealing with the objection on a very surface level, and that's not going to solve anyone's problem. You want to make sure you understand how they truly feel. So if they say, you know what, this is really expensive. Okay, what do you mean by that? Well, I thought coaches cost anywhere between $1,000 or $500. All right, so now you know this person is comparing you to other people, or they're comparing you to their idea of how much a coach should cost. I never defended. I said, okay, was that what you were looking for? Were you looking for a cheaper solution? And oftentimes they would say, yes, I would absolutely look for a cheaper solution. And this is where I start disqualifying. So qualifying and disqualifying are two concepts. Qualify is you want to make sure you're asking questions that they are a good fit for you. Disqualifying is when you say certain things that push the client away. You don't have to bend over backwards and say, okay, if you only want $500, I'll do it for $500. Because when you start folding, you put the power in the client's hands, and they can see you don't get a lot of business, and therefore they can kind of negotiate their way down. And I can tell you, so many coaches I work with, they pitch a $1,500 product, and then the client says, this is really expensive. It goes down from $1,500 to $1,000. Okay, you know what? I don't really need this part of the coaching. Can we also remove this? Can we remove that? And it becomes this bare bone version of a $450 service. Okay, so instead of saying, how much do you want to pay? How can I bring this price down? Whatever. You say, okay, it sounds like I'm not in your budget. What do you think we should do? Again, we're not folding here. We're not giving in to the client. We're just saying, okay, it just sounds like you can't afford me. What do you think we could do? How can I make this easier for you? And I can tell you, clients get on a call with me, and I'll be honest, my service is very expensive, and I'm proud of that, right? So they'll say, well, Yasir, you're charging this much money. That's really expensive. And I'll say, okay, compared to what? Or let me ask you a question. When you say it's too expensive, what do you mean by that? And they'll say, well, it's really expensive compared to this online course, or it's really expensive because I can watch YouTube videos on this for free. And I'll say, okay, were you looking for cheap courses? Were you looking for YouTube videos? And say, well, no, I wasn't. And then usually just say, well, if you're looking for something really cheap and you're looking for a free solution, then this is probably not a good fit, because I'm looking for people who are very committed. They can invest in themselves, and they have the money to invest in their own business. Maybe this is not a good fit. What do you think? And notice how when I say this, I'm not belittling them. I'm just saying maybe this is not what you're looking for. Maybe you wanted something cheap, and that's okay. I might be out of your budget. But it's not me trying to convince them. I'm not trying to say, oh, no, but my $5,000 service or my $10,000 service is definitely worth it, or you should invest in it. You should. I'm not going to convince them. Kind of like when a patient goes to a doctor, right? And the doctor says, hey, you're having a lot of lumbar pain. You're going to need this procedure, and it's going to cost this much. And if the client says, well, that's a lot of money, I don't want to pay this much for this procedure, the doctor's not going to say, well, no, you should, because I think this is really going to help you with this. They'll say, okay, well, I know you need it, but you don't want to spend the money for it. So I understand. Maybe we can do something else. Again, they're not going to try to convince you. And in the same way, I'm not going to try to convince my client. I'm just going to say, this is your problem. This is how I can solve the problem. And this is how much it's going to be. What do you think? Would you like to do it? And if they say no, okay, understand. What else can we do? What else would make this easier for you? So now, if I've done a good enough job of explaining that to them and they still don't see a value in it, maybe I've done a poor job of demonstrating the value. Maybe I haven't shown them that whatever they invest with me, they will make back. So for example, in my business, right, I work with coaches and I help them double their income. The first thing we do is try to make the money back they paid me and then make twice the amount. That's the end goal we're trying to work with. So people are like, hey, if I'm going to pay you all this money and it's going to go down the drain and all those are my concerns, I don't want to pay you if I don't make money back. That's a legitimate concern. So I'll ask them, let me ask you this, what's your biggest fear right now? Or what's the worst thing that can happen if you pay me? And they'll say, well, I'll pay you and nothing will happen. Right? So now you know what their fear is, you know what their issue is with paying you, and you need to alleviate that. You say, okay, suppose this thing works perfectly, right? Would there be anything else holding you back? Would there be anything else holding you from moving forward at this price? And usually they would say no. If it works just fine, then I'd be more than happy to. So now you know what the true objection is. The true objection is, I don't think this is going to work. I don't want to pay you this much money. I don't want to pay you for your career coaching. I don't want to pay you for fitness coaching if this is not going to work. So it's not a this is too expensive objection. It's not a this is a lot of money objection. This is a I don't think this is going to work objection, which are two very different things. So now what you can do is you can talk about your testimonials. You can talk about your client stories. You can talk about past successes. You can talk about analogies, metaphors, different ways to help the client understand that they will get a certainty of result. Certainty is extremely big in sales, because if the client does not have a certainty that they will get the result they're looking for, they will not invest. If I tell you, hey, you're going to pay me $5,000 and you have like a 20% chance of making money back, you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to make that deal at all. But if I tell you, if you give me $10,000 for my service and 95% of my clients have made that money back and more, now the certainty goes really high. And you're like, okay, if I pay this money, I have a very high certainty of getting that money back. That fear of it not working is eliminated. All right. So I don't want this video to be too long. Essentially, what the point is, are you talking to people who are qualified before you get on a call or really early on the call? Who are these people? What is their background? Do they make enough money to afford your service? Do they even have money to pay the rent? If not, the price is not a problem. You're talking to the right people, to the wrong people. No amount of sales training, no amount of smooth words or books or whatever is going to help if you're talking to people who just don't have money. Secondly, what is your positioning like? Are you talking to people who are in a financial bracket, who have disposable income to spend on your coaching? If you're a leadership coach, maybe you're a career coach, a career transition coach, a fitness coach. These are things people are looking for when they have money for other things. They can pay their rent, they can pay for their education, all that stuff. They have disposable income. Now they're looking for coaching. Okay, so are you positioning yourself in a way where your clients have the money to afford extra services? Next one up, are you doing a good enough job of showing the value of what you offer? Have you clearly demonstrated, you give me this money, I'll give you this return, and whatever return I'm giving you is going to be worth more than what you give me? Because if it's the same amount, no one's going to invest, right? If you pay me $500 right now and I make you a resume, or if you pay me $2,000 right now and I give you a package for your career and you get a job that pays you $50,000, $60,000, $2,000, $60,000, does that sound like a good deal, right? You want to make sure your client understands the value and the ROI of investing with you. If they don't see it, whatever you throw your price at is going to be too expensive. They're not going to be sold. They're not going to want to do it, because they want to make sure they invest, they're getting more in return. And lastly, the certainty. Is there a certainty of result? How will I know this works? How will I know you're the person to solve my problem? Have you solved this problem for other people before? Testimonials help here. Stories help here. Anecdotes help here. Anything you can tell the client to show them that you have done this in the past and this works really well, and they can feel comfortable giving you their money. Okay. And the last thing is, if an objection is open to interpretation, again, I would pick this book up. Fantastic book. If an objection is open to multiple interpretations, it's too expensive, the price is too high. All of these things are open to multiple interpretations. Price is too high compared to what? Is price too high because it's from me? Is the price too high because this other guy is charging this much? Is the price too high because you just bought a $15 online course from Udemy? What is the price too high compared to? And different people will have different answers for this. Not everyone's going to say the same thing. So I want you to realize, by the way, my camera keeps dying out. I want you to realize that different people will say different things depending on their situation. So keep that in mind, okay? The first thing you want to do is, okay, what do you mean by that? Outline the true objection. Get them to tell you what the real issue is. Usually it's not the price. People will pay the price if they have the money, as long as they know it's going to work. Most of the time I found that is the objection. They're not sure if they need it now. They're not sure if they need to pay this much money. They're not sure if it's going to work. Once you outline these objections for them, now you know you can have a dialogue on that specific objections, okay? So if you understand this concept, guys, honestly, the price objections tend to be the easiest ones, and they also tend to be the most predictable ones. I teach something that I learned from Victor Antonio called sales objection blocking, where before the objection even comes up, you know it's coming. So if you know it's coming, you can address it prior, like, hey, most of my clients have an issue with pricing, and of course they do. What they found working with me was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and now it's not a problem. Can you see how price isn't an issue? Before they even bring up the price, they know, oh, okay, this person also had that objection, and that wasn't a problem for them, so it must be a no issue. And I can tell you there's been so many times where I've gotten on a client call, and my clients have gotten on a client call where they've addressed a pricing issue prior to the client even bringing it up, and it never came up. It just solved itself, okay? So let me know if this helped out, guys. If it did, if you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, join my Facebook coaching community. I'll be doing live streams like this, but way longer. I'll do like an hour-long live stream specifically based on your questions. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can find it in the comment section. If you're already on my group, I love you guys. You've been so supportive. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find that in the description. So again, this is what I do. Qualifying and proactively acknowledging price concerns. Precisely. I wish I knew who you were, but I can't see your name. But I'm sure I'll see your name when I get off the thing. Okay. So again, if you were interested in checking out the group, check that out as well. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got tons of videos. If anything here didn't make sense or you want more explanation, just shoot me a DM with price or group or whatever it is, and I'd be more than happy to do it. As you can see, this is what I do for a living, and I can't shut the hell up about this kind of stuff, so I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it, okay? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.